Hey, Michael, it's good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Paul, I'm doing great, man. Always great to see you. Thanks for having me on. I'm
Yeah,
excited to rock and roll here.
100%, man. 100%. So, yeah, and thanks for taking the time out of your schedule, man. It's a real honor. For those of you who don't know Michael's a team leader of the Bear Group out in Denver, Colorado, number 12 ranked team in the state of Colorado, where I think he told me, he just shared with me, you're approaching 200 million in production for this year. Michael, how many people are on your team?
Yeah, so we've grown a lot this year, Paul. That's something I'm excited to talk about too. We were at about 30 agents last year. We're almost to 70 right now. So we've had a lot of growth, some growing pains, but we've kept moving the right direction, man. So we
70
got a really solid
agents.
team.
All right, dude.
Yeah,
70 agents. So, Michael, do you have? Let me ask you this. I'll just kind of dive into a couple things, and
yeah.
from the agents that you're hiring, are you seeing like who are you seeing right now that needs the most support in their business? I'm assuming you're hiring a mix of agents, right?
hmm
So new to business type agents and as well as experienced agents. Obviously, you've got new to business agents that need something
Yeah.
different from they need a different level of support than somebody that has some more experience. But let's talk about that more experienced agent for just a second. What are you seeing? Like, what's attracting that experienced agent? Maybe they were on a team before, maybe they weren't. Like, what's attracting them to you? What you're doing? Because I know you got your systems dialed in.
Yeah. I think to answer your first question, I think who needs more support now? I think it's every agent, right?
Mm.
It's new agents. It's, people in the business for a couple of years, people in business for 20 years, right? Like this market, you turn on the TV anytime and it's the market's down. There's fear, there's doubt. And a lot of agents are buy into that. And our whole thing, how we help all of our agents this year has been just to not talk about that, right? Not like pie in the sky, like it doesn't exist. Like, hey, the market is what the market is, but we're going to go work. And whether you're brand new or you've been doing it for 10 years, it doesn't matter. If there's business out there, and that's our thing, is there's business out there and we know that, and we're going to go get what business there is.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's funny you say that because it's funny you say that all agents need business. I mean, you know as well as I do, through coaching, whether they're experienced, whether they're newer to the business. But that's exactly the reason that I started Rise, right? Just because I see agents that are so busy right now, and let's face it, this business isn't going to get any easier in the next 5 years,
Right.
right? But especially the next 6 months, right?
Yeah.
You know, you see agents out there that are productive, but just sometimes I had a conversation with an agent just this morning, spinning their wheels a little bit,
hmm
right? Just spinning their wheels a little bit, but that's what I really inspired me to create
Yeah.
the Rise platform. Just
Yeah, I think it's such a cool idea and a cool platform and a big need, right? Like real estate's always evolving. And when you were telling me about it, I was like, that's something that agents need, right?
yeah.
They need that support and something to plug into.
So here's something that I could kind of pick your brain on. I had a
Yeah.
conversation, an idea, then a conversation. Because when I first thought about Rise, I was like, man, there's a lot of great teams out there, right?
hmm
You're a perfect example. A team leader that provides a ton of support. There's also a lot of bad teams out there, right? But I had a conversation with a top team leader here, and the idea I had was that, hey, how many agents are you turning away because they don't fit your avatar? They
hmm
need more support that maybe you can give them. Maybe they're not your ideal agent right now. But my idea was, why don't we kind of partner together? Somebody newer to LPT, we can co-sponsor that agent. I can coach them up. I can get them on the right track, through Rise, and then coach them up and hand them back to you when that time comes. And I got a really good response from a team leader. We just started kind of brainstorming. And I was like, I don't want to compete with team leaders. I would love to partner with some team leaders. And I think it could be beneficial for both, you
Yeah.
know?
And to that, we get a lot of agents that went to, I don't know, we can edit this out if we need to, but, go to Keller Williams, right, to start with, because they're known for their training.
Yeah.
And a lot of agents come to us because they're like, well, it didn't live up to what we wanted, but new agents move towards training. Right. And so if there's a platform, especially if you can partner and be, kind of live in harmony with some teams, and there's that platform where you could go in and train and have that system that really is, I think, lacking overall in our industry. There's a huge spot for that.
It's funny you mentioned education, KW, that's really what Robert's whole MO is right now.
Mm,
And I think were you on that call? I think you were not on that call like 2 weeks ago, where it's not just the education, because people have this perception that the education at certain, I'll leave them nameless, but a perception that the education is premier at a certain company. But when it really comes down to it, what you find, is kind of an empty box of goods for today's market, right?
yeah,
And, but that's the whole push, I think, is education. And
right.
something that I really paid attention to when RP mentioned that. He made the whole Team Growth Plus call about education. And I mean, you're somebody that brings a lot of people into your organization. I think you had somebody out there that there was a gentleman on that call, and I don't remember his name. There was a guy on that call that was actually visiting your office the next day, and he gave you a big shout
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So Keegan, he runs, I think number 12 team in the country out of Tampa,
Keegan, yeah.
one of the original teams to come over to and so, yeah, he just having people that's cool with our LPT network, the people that we get to be with in the Team Growth Plus and those masterminds, right? Like, Keegan came to my office and saw how we do role play and took a little bit, info from us, and then sat and we chatted for a couple hours and I just picked his brain, right? Like
Yeah,
that's no matter what level you're at, doing it for decades, even you're learning something new every day. You
yeah,
should be, at least.
yeah, and that's something I never had, before joining LPT. I felt like I was just, hey, I owned my own company. I was my own broker. I was my own boss, the agent. The buck. I always said the buck stops with me, and you don't need to run anything up the flagpole to get answers. But I tell you, the biggest missing component to all that was the community, was the collaboration,
Right.
right? And I know that I can pick up the phone and call you. I mean, heck, you're giving me your time here this afternoon. I can call you with anything, and I'm always grateful for that. But
Yeah.
it's not just the relationships that you've had prior to this. I've found that with everybody in LPT, for the
Yeah.
most part, and coming over here. What and that kind of brings me to your journey, kind of your journey, and how long you've been with LPT now? Has it been 3 years?
It's about 2.5
Two and a half
tomorrow, actually. Yeah,
tomorrow?
January
Nice,
1st, 2024 was the
nice.
first day. Yeah. So July 1st will be, 2.5 years. It's crazy, man. Still remember vividly the decision, going through the process, wondering if it was going to be the biggest mistake ever. And looking back, been amazing.
Yeah, well, I had a similar situation, but I was able to take a look at teams like yourself and say, okay, well, if they
Yeah.
if they did it, we can do it. What? And let's chat about that. Like, here you're an established independent, right?
Yeah.
Here you have an established independent looking at LPT, not knowing anything about it. It's I'm assuming not big in Denver at that time.
Right. Right.
What was your draw? I mean, what was your draw to the company?
Yeah. So, we've been independent for, the entirety of the time I've been doing it with family owned brokerage. We had maybe 20, 25 agents at the time, and, EXP, Keller Williams had been recruited by all of the brokerages that recruit. Right. And I never saw a model that I thought would be beneficial for myself and my agents, right? Like, go to EXP, I could earn stock and all that stuff. And when I was at a mastermind in Scottsdale with some friends, some people, and a couple of the guys there we just happened to be, it's serendipity, man. We happened to, our flight didn't leave till the next morning. So we went out for dinner, had a few drinks, and started talking about LPT out there. And I was like, what LPT? What's that? What's that stand for? Like, never heard of it, really.
Yeah,
And we started talking, and they started kind of peeling back the book on it. And and I said, this is something that's beneficial, not only for me, but for all of my agents. I can go to my agents and I can say, this is going to be a better process for you. We're going to be able to sell more, and it's going to be true. And I can sleep at night not knowing I just made some move to take a bunch of money from some other franchise. And so
yeah,
that was it, man. And then there's a group of me and 4 other teams that were friends that were at that mastermind that decided to join at the same time. And we spent probably a month and a half, looking at everything, trying to talk ourselves out of it. And we just couldn't do it. It,
yeah.
we, every time we tried to counter with the LPT, there was a counterpunch, a positive, and we all ended up doing it, and rest is history.
Yeah. And what do you think? what do you think the biggest value? Before I get into that, I had a
Yeah.
very similar experience. I remember standing with you,
Yeah.
right? I think we were in Vegas, maybe, and I
Yeah.
think Robert Palmer was there,
Yeah. For
right?
sure.
And I was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Because you had nothing but good things to say, and obviously, so I stayed to listen to him speak. And when after I heard him speak and listen to the vision he has, and I was like, that's the guy I need to
Yeah.
attach to.
Absolutely.
Ride his vision.
Yeah.
But anyway, there was something I was going to mention there. Yeah. So for your agents, I'm interested to see or to hear your opinion. Like with LPT, now you have your team, and what do you think the biggest items of value for your agents are being associated, not with just with your team, but with
Yeah.
LPT?
So I'll give you there's a few. I mean, what drew me in immediately was the marketing that is provided to agents, right? Like the listing power box, which I have sitting back here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's amazing, and that was like, okay, well, there's some value for the agents. There's a lot more than just the box that goes into LPT. They make it super easy. The ton of marketing. I think a trickle down effect is the biggest bonus for us overall has been the people I've been able to know through LPT, right? The groups we're in, the mastermind, the Team Growth Plus calls that we're on, me being able to talk to Robert Palmer, a billionaire or whatever he is, right? Have individual conversations with him, nicest guy ever. I always say a lot of people can say they know, one of the smartest people ever, right? Like, oh, he's so smart. Not many people can say that person is also one of the nicest people they know. And that's what Robert is.
yeah,
And it just shows in everything he does. And I think that trickles down to everything we do.
yeah, for sure, man. And that's been my experience with RP as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What What would you say? So you've got things really rocking and rolling. What, like, your business has doubled, right? Over the last year and a half,
Yeah, yeah. So
right?
when we joined, I think the year before we joined LPT, we were solid, we were profitable, 110 transactions. The next year, 150. Last year, 225, and this year, our goal was 500. We'll probably land around 350 unless rates come down 1%, then we'll hit 500. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we basically tripled since we joined LPT. So definitely been super beneficial.
Yeah. And I know you're bringing a lot of value to your team members as well. Is there one thing that you can say, and I'm sure this might be a difficult question, but is there one thing that you can say, you know what, this was a difference maker?
From LPT or just in general?
Just in general.
I think I made a decision at the beginning of last year that, we had grown incrementally, right? We most years were up 15, 20%, right? Which when you look at it, kind of follows the market. It was maybe a little better than the market. And beginning of last year, I just said, I'm going to invest and we're going to grow. And so lead sources, recruiting, everything to grow our team overall. I wasn't okay just growing 10%. I said, I want to double, I want to triple. And that has provided a ton of opportunities to our agents, and they put the work in to get a ton of results.
Yeah. I think the big takeaway from that is, I started this off. I said, there's a lot of really good teams out there, and there's also some bad teams, and the and brokerages, right? Like and when I say that, what I mean is the people that are making false promises, right? The people
Mhm.
that are saying, hey, look, we get, because most agents, they think what they need is leads, right?
Right.
So you're gonna. I think what I've seen is a lot of false promises from the
Mhm.
brokerage level,
Yeah.
support level, the team leaders that the wannabe team leaders that I can't tell you how many team members that I've brought over from our competitors just
Right.
over the years, right? That are just like, yeah, there's no more leads. Leads going up.
Yeah.
Hey, market turned and leads
Right.
pulled back. They pulled
Yeah.
back on leads. And hey, look, I get it, right? But that's something I was shouting to individual agents, right? Like when the market turned, it's like,
Mhm.
now's not the time. Like, I get it. Commissions are down, business is down, because you're not pivoting, you're not changing, you're not reinvesting in your business, which again is one of the big reasons I joined LPT, right? but the big teams like the Bear Group are going to, when the market's down, that's when you're going to take more market share, right?
Yeah.
And I think historically, you see that over time and time again.
Yeah. And over the last, 6, 8 months, I've taken on, for growing lead count liability of that, is 4 or 500,000 plus a year. Right.
Wow.
And in a down market, it would be easy to go the opposite way. But, RP, our buddy, right? He says that in a down market, you got to be ready for the boom market. And in a boom market, you got to be ready for the bust market, right? We're in a down market right now. And I'm willing to spend that money to position us to be ready for when things do get a little better. And along the way, we're going to have some wins too.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to take much. I think, we can, see things out there on the
Yeah.
horizon. I don't think it's going to take much, but, I love the concept of, there's business out there to be had.
Oh yeah.
I think the biggest thing, and kind of back to what I said about, one of my reasons for joining LPT, it's like, I saw agents, the solo agent, maybe doing something respectable, 15,
Yeah.
20 transactions a year, not reinvesting in their business. And it's like, man, what can I do to help these people? What can I
Yeah.
put in their lap? Right. And the answer was LPT.
Yeah.
Right. Now we've got access to all of this marketing free of charge. And it really was the answer to a solid problem that or challenge that I had, for
Absolutely.
sure.
And just the ability to scale, right? Like we're looking into opening offices in other areas and all of that. Like it just on the rails of LPT, we can do all that.
To think about scaling, every time, and I've been there, right? I've been, I owned multiple offices with
Yeah.
a franchise, and
Yeah.
every time I wanted to visit that, it was an incredible budget that,
Yeah.
and now it's like, man, the boundaries are off.
Yeah.
If I want to take, if I want to, get to a point in my career where I want to be spending time in another state, or, I can, and I want to start up a little team there, I can do that.
Yeah.
There's no boundaries. There's no handcuffs.
Yeah.
Right.
It's more of I look at it now as it's a talent thing, right? Do you have talent in different areas? If you have talent in another city, you can start something pretty easy,
Yeah.
right? So now we're in the talent acquisition business now, right? We
Yeah.
we find talented people and the rails of us growing are off. We can go do what we want to grow.
Yeah. That's great. That's great, man. You think here, anything you want to add?
No, man. I would be interested to hear, your journey with LPT. You've mentioned a few things, but what were some of the things that drew you, and what's been some of the best stuff that you've seen so far?
Yeah, well, what really, and I would say when we were out in Vegas together, as I mentioned, it really piqued my curiosity,
Yeah.
right? I was in, my hands were tied. I was in a franchise agreement, and I mean those things are pretty ironclad, and I knew, there was a period of time where I wasn't going to be able to do anything. So I started doing some research, and I pay, just like you, man, I pay very close attention to where this
Mhm.
industry's going, what it's doing.
Yeah.
And I had to ask myself and it was really at the 11th hour, man. And I had to ask myself, like, is my previous brand the company that was going to be helping me and my agents be successful in the next 5 or 10 years? And
Right.
the answer was clear as day to me. The answer was no. There was other things going on with the franchise. They were subsequently sold, and I saw that coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'll tell you, I count my blessings every day today that I'm not
Mhm.
part of that mess right now, man.
Yeah. You had a good time, man.
It was really good timing.
Yeah.
Something that I really look as a blessing. And just having, and not to mention having the relationships that I did put into place before I made that
Mhm.
decision. You were very important part of that. And but yeah, man, I mean, eh, I think a lot of people looked at me like, "What is this guy doing?" When I made this announcement, right?
Yeah.
Going from the biggest brand in the world to in my market, a rather unknown company in
Startup,
LPT,
yeah.
and a young company. But it didn't take long to open some eyes, I think we're still in the infancy of this thing, and I'm just really excited to help, keep spreading the word, and because because I saw something. What happened was I saw something that I couldn't unsee.
Yeah.
Right. When I, not just Robert's vision, but when I learned about the power packs,
Yeah.
and by the way, I'll be down in Florida next week. I'm going to
Oh,
take a
nice.
visit over to the print shop.
Oh, cool.
and see that operation over there. Yeah, Steve had invited me a number of
That's awesome.
times, and I'm finally going to be down there. So I want to go get some cool footage and
Yeah. Heck
see the
yeah.
insides of
That's a
that
cool
monster.
place.
That's
Yeah.
got to be a pretty crazy operation. But anyway, when I started peeling back the layers of this thing, man, I was like, I couldn't go back.
Yeah,
It
that's
was
that's how I
just
was. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and you, I mean, you got even for you, your first real taste was listening to Robert speak, right? And this is like Mister Steele, like
yeah,
he's like Mister Steele, your real estate agent. You hear him speak, and all he's got to do is talk, and people are like, that guy's smart. I want to know more about him, right? And then the wheels start turning, and seeing it happen time and time again,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So I haven't been with Elp quite a year, right? Can you believe that?
Yeah, I know.
Like
I
quite
remember
a
all
year.
our conversations, man. We talked for hours and hours
Yeah,
about it, and I was happy to because A, I believe in it so much. B, you're a friend, and C, like I went through the same thing. I had to hash it out a lot too, and I could tell you cared about it.
yeah. But I realized something struck me when I was about, I don't know, about 6 months ago. Something kind of struck me, and I identified a need. When I came over to LPT, you know, because what I am, let's face it, what I am right now is kind of an unconventional team leader, right? I brought a traditional brokerage over to LPT, and I've got a lot of independent solo agents,
Yeah,
and that want to be solo agents, right?
yeah.
And there'll always be room for solo agents in this business. I know we you hear things on the street
Oh yeah,
about teams and growing teams, and there's truth to that, but there will also be a place I believe in my mind for that solo agent.
abs-
However, what I see is, and a lot because of the market, right? There's a lot of solo agents that really need that support, that that high level team support that the
mm-hmm.
good teams do provide to their agents.
Yeah,
And they're not getting it from their brokerage.
right,
They're
right.
not getting it from the brokerage. There's a ton of smoke and mirrors out there when it
Yeah,
comes to what brokerages are providing their agents. And I'll tell you, brokerages have a huge pain point. The big box brands have a huge pain point when it comes to marketing when you put it side by side to a company like LPT. Let's
oh
face
yeah,
it. Like, sure, brokerages and franchises are providing their agents with tools and their resources, but and this is what I would ask the agent, like, what does your brokerage actually provide to you that helps you be more successful,
exactly.
that
That
puts
helps you sell more homes.
that helps you
That's
sell more homes,
bottom line.
bottom line. So, and that's what I realized this, and I said, with between what LPT provides and some of the knowledge and systems and things that I already have in place, there's a huge need for a platform like Rise. I don't want to
Yeah,
compete with the team leaders, I
absolutely.
but what I have identified and talking even with brokers around the area, there's a lot of agents, and you probably see it too. There's a lot of agents out there that are kind of wandering around, not kind of shell shocked from the market, not
Hmm.
knowing what quite what to do.
Yeah,
Where should they be investing? Where should they be spending their time? Where should be, which leveraging time is I think one of the biggest things that I think agents don't do enough of,
right.
right? If the support and the resources is there, why on earth are we not spending the majority of time on those money making activities,
Exactly.
rather than working on our deals? And look, I get it. I've been there. It feels
Yeah.
good to get a house under
Oh yeah.
contract and go out and order the inspections and show up and spend 3 hours at the home
Yeah,
inspection,
you're
right? Like,
wrapped up in all the emails
you
and
get,
everything. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and it feels good. You feel productive, but that's not the stuff that makes you more money,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I think a good team does is gives you more opportunities and helps you when you convert those opportunities, continue to get more opportunities because your plate's not too full. Right. Like that's the name of the game is continuing to generate new business when you have business.
Yeah. Well, always keeping that pipeline full.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
hey man, we're at about the top of the hour, and I don't want to take up you were gracious enough to give me 30 minutes
Yeah.
of your time. I don't want to take up too much of it, Michael. It's a pleasure having you on here today, man.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. Always appreciate you, man. You're a true friend and excited to see this, excited to see you grow, rise and keep doing great things, man.
Awesome, man. It's good catching up with you.